Welcome to part 3, that is the concluding part on test positions on pin, and of course this will be like more difficult as compared to previous two part. We have 6 problem in this. We start with number 13 from the game between Fazekas and Spillman played in the year 1938. And what do we see in this position is like black has dangerous threat, is threatening queen into f2 followed by mate, and then the rook on e2 is also threatening to win the queen on d2. But because of good position here with rook commanding the open c file, bishop on b2 on a very good diagonal, white is able to bring in checkmate through a pin. So there followed rook c8 check. This forces king to h7, and now comes that wonderful sacrifice rook h8 check. It means now black king has no option but to capture the rook, and with this capture we see that pawn on g7 has come under pin, and which means now white can play queen h6 check without any fear. Pawn cannot capture it. It is illegal for black to bring his king under pin. So only response is king g8, and there followed queen into g7 check and mate. Number 14 is from the game Bisguier-Evans played at USA in the year 1959, and here we see a combination of a discovered attack and a pin. So what is the drawback for black? That his king is on f8, that means rook on h8 did not get a chance to come into the game, and he is basically hoping on this pin on the bishop on e4 as the rook on e1 is not protected. But here we see Bisguier being able to bring about a pin with the move queen a3 check. And now let us examine the option. Here the text move played by black was moving the queen to e7 and blocking the check. But if he had gone to g8, then here white can unpin with a discovered attack. He can play bishop captures h7 with a check and then would win the queen on the next move. So that is why the only response to this move queen a3 was to play queen to e7. And now with the queen on e7 under pin, it is not in a position to move away from the line, that we know, and that is why it allowed white to move his bishop to c6 and create a discovered attack on the queen with his rook. This forces black to play queen into a3, and it's a sacrifice of the queen by white, and he continues this with rook into e8 check and mate. The next in this position is from the game between Halomov and Isakov played at USSR, the then USSR, in the year 1947, and it shows a simple way of taking advantage of a pin. We see that white, who is already exchanged up in this position, has pinned the bishop on g5. How can he take advantage? How he can conclude this game? So he started with h4, putting more pressure on the pin piece, threatening to win it with the pawn on h4, or like capture on g5 with his rook in support of the pawn. So to prevent the loss of piece, black had only one option, and that is to play rb4 check. It's of course a skewer attack. So white king gets out of the check by capturing the pawn on e5, and now black felt that yes, he has been able to prevent the loss of a piece. But then white continues the same idea, but now this time with the pawn on f4, again putting pressure on the pinned piece on g5. So this again forces black to play rook into f4. Now difference is that rook being f4 is directly in the attacking zone of the white king on e5. So white concludes this with rook into g7 check. It's straight away a threat to win the bishop on g5, which is now attacked twice. So there is only one reply for black, that is to play king into g7, which means that white now can play rook into g5 with a check. king to h6 attacking the rook on g5, but here white simply goes a rook up by playing, capturing the unprotected rook. Now the bishop on g7, the defender had been destroyed, has been eliminated, so king can capture the rook on f4, leading to an elementary win. The position here from the game between Scots and Gold played in the year 1928 is also one of my personal favorite, with black to play and win. And here we can see like some similar idea which we had seen, the pattern we had seen earlier. Black started with a surprising queen h7 check, and we also see that now the rook on d3 is in fire. It's a double attack by the rook on d5 as well the queen, and there is only one defender, that is bishop on b1. It means that white needs to move away his rook, and this he does by playing rook h3 and also removing the check. And this move also in fact brings the queen under pin. So was this move queen h7 a blunder? In fact it is not. Black had thought properly. Now came the move rook d1 check, and this move suddenly opens up the way for the bishop to come into action. He pins this pawn on g2. There is only one reply, king to h2, and now comes the winning move. Idea we had seen earlier, rook h1 check, forcing the king back to h1, and we see now that pawn on g2 is pinned. It means no defense to the rook on h3. There followed queen captures h3 check, king to g1, followed by queen captures g2 check and mate. Let us go back to that move rook h1 check and also examine what if king does not capture on h1 but goes to g3. And when I was demonstrating, I must have demonstrated this position thousands of times during this 20-year period, and I was not able to find one variation here which was later on showed to me by one of my students. Unfortunately, I am not able to remember his name, but he then said that a simple way I thought was simply play rook into h3 and win the game. For example, rook into h3 and then g into h3 and then play queen h4 check, king to h2 and queen into f2 mate. But then he showed me that, sir, there is one more way to win the game, which is in fact more beautiful and more original than simple rook into h3. He said we can go ahead with queen h4 check. Absolutely stunning. I was not able to believe my eyes when he showed me this position first. But mate is of course there, because after rook into h4, the only move, there comes g captures h4 check and mate. Wonderful idea. So this is how exciting chess is. It throws up many new ideas, unexplored areas which we can only dream of. Now we come to the position from the game par Whitecroft, played at the then Holland, Netherlands, 1968, and it's white to play and win, and how he unpins and at the same time creates a pin. We see here that queen on a4 had pinned the rook on b5, and he was hoping that this rook will not move because the queen on d7 is unprotected. But here now white came up with the stunning rook h5 unpinning, and at the same time now threatening to play queen into a4. And what do we also see with this move is that the pawn on h6 is pinned. So here black went ahead with queen into d7. Let us examine what if he had captured this rook. Well, in that case, white is even not required to capture the queen on a4. He can simply go ahead with queen f5 and it is check and mate. So to this move rh5, black played queen captures d7, got the queen, but now there came knight g5, taking advantage that the pawn on h6 is pinned, it is not possible for black to play h captures g5. So there followed king h8, the only move, and now with this move we see the bishop on g7 coming under pin. It means rook captures h6 is check and mate. I hope you have enjoyed this test position. And now to the concluding one in part 3. It's also a wonderful combination. Is from the game played between Bergresser and Wiener, a correspondence game played way back in the year 1996, when computers they have not made much inroads at that time. Correspondence chess was very popular. I myself used to play a good number of games through correspondence, where moves were exchanged through postcards. In India at that time they were costing 15 paise, and there was a Correspondence Chess Association of India, CCAI, which used to organize number of tournaments. So you can participate in number of tournaments at one go, because all you need to do is to have their opponent and send them the moves by postcard. So this was correspondence chess, and this type of chess has contributed a lot for development of chess theory and unique combinations, because you have a lot of time to ponder over a move. Like correspondence games runs a good period of time, sometimes running into years, 2 years, 3 years. That is the speciality of correspondence game. So this is from one of this game, and what do we see? That again an example of pins and cross pin. The rook on g3 is pinned by the white rook on g2, but that rook itself is pinned by the queen on f3. So how to take advantage? Well, here white started with queen h3. Beautiful idea, putting pressure on the rook on g3, threatening to win it. Of course, let us just go back to the start position once again and find out whether we can win the rook by capturing with the h pawn. But in fact, that would turn out to be blunder. Black can bring about a pin with rook h7. So the move h captures g3 is not good. That's why white played queen h3. And now here, to the surprise of white, which was thinking would be an easy win, because now he can simply play queen into g3, goes a rook up, but black found a stunning defense, rook f g7, in fact closing the lion, and now offering his rook with the pawn on f6. And in fact it would not be good for white to capture. See why he had played queen h3, because the rook on g3 cannot move as it is under pin on the g file. Now when rf g7 has been played, and if at all white accepts this sacrifice with his pawn, then his queen on h3 is lost and the game. But here now white continued with queen c8 check. There is only one defense, king to h7, and now he wins the rook, f into g7. Black here continued rook into g7, now with further threat of rook into g2. And then he can hope for some perpetual check. Say after rook into g2, he can try, black can try queen f1 check, rook g1 and queen f3 check. So here let us examine what if he had not played rook into g7 had but gone into rook into g2 much too earlier. In that case, this queen will assume dangerous power, queen h8 check, forcing king to g6, a new queen will appear on the board, and it will be white who will be winning the game easily. And that is the precise reason we see black playing rook into g7. But now white continued with that idea of to unpin the rook on g2. If he unpins the rook on g2, he will win the rook on g7. The rook on g2 is pinned by the queen on the line here, on the diagonal here. So comes the move queen h3. Beautiful move. Of course, it's a check and attack on the queen. That's why this sacrifice needs to be accepted. Queen into h3 unpins the rook on g2. So there followed rook captures g7 check, king to h6. King h8 makes no difference. It will just be an addition of one or two moves. King to h6. Now comes rook 1 g6 check, forcing king to h5, and now there is rook h7, skewer attack, and after king into g6, there follows rook into h3 to conclude the game in favor of a white, who is now a rook plus. So friends, with this we have concluded our test position on pin. I hope you have enjoyed all these 18 problems, and now I would suggest that you revise this chapter. You can come back when you become stronger and try to solve it again without moving the pieces on the board. You can cover the solutions with a page so that you don't see it, and try whether you are able to get the answer without seeing it. And I am confident that you will not only be able to find the answer correctly, but you will also be able to find new ideas. So with this, I take your leave for now and will be back with the next chapter in middle game. Thank you.